All right, welcome to Drew's Book Reviews. This is our live stream with author Roberta Bombonato joining me today on this live stream. Thank you so much for joining me, Roberta. It's great to have you here and look forward to this awesome discussion that we're going to have. So thanks so much for joining us today.
On this live stream. Thank you so much.
Sorry, that was me.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, so we're gonna have fun. We're gonna be talking about. We're gonna talk about your experiences as an author and writing and books. I've got 3 of your books here: Unconventional Family, Unbreakable Family, and Blind Sympathy. So we're gonna be having a chat about your experience writing and how that's gone for you. But first, why don't you tell our audience and those of us who are joining us on the replay as well? If you're joining us on the replay, thanks for tuning in and watching. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about this giveaway that you're offering our viewers today?
So yeah, guys, this is the second edition of An Unconventional Family, which I wrote in 2009. And it won an honorable mention in the Hollywood Book Festival also in 2009. So that's what we're going to be doing the drawing for. And we're going to be using a name generator at the end of the show. So please type in the comments if you're interested with your name. And if you're in the US or Canada, because that's the only ones I'm going to ship to, unfortunately. Maybe one day I could do international. Well, technically it's international, but, further than Canada.
Yeah, fair enough. I know it could get expensive to ship overseas. So yeah, so if you're watching, put your name in the comments, US or Canada. Tell us where you are so that we can put your name in the random name generator. So, I will say from the start here, when you first contacted me, and I've mentioned this on other videos and streams, but for those that perhaps haven't seen those videos, when you first contacted me, can't remember how long ago, but you said, "Hey, Drew, can you review my book for me? It's kind of like a paranormal romance." And it's like, what? Romance? I don't know about this. Romance is not my thing. It's not something that I really care for. But you got my attention with the paranormal. So that was this one, The Blind Sympathy here. And I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised because I was not expecting to enjoy it. But I found I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected, which is just really awesome to be pleasantly surprised like that. So kudos to you for convincing me to read a romance and, making me enjoy a romance, which is still a surprise to me in some ways. But, I got to ask, where'd you get the idea for this book, for Blind Sympathy? With, people and demons and romance, like where did you get that idea? It's kind of a cool concept. I think it's a pretty cool concept for that. I mean, who doesn't love a good demon story?
So I had just came back from a writer's conference, and they had given us like a tchotchkes bag where, there's a bunch of free stuff. And in it was like this water bottle that was kind of see-through, but the top was black. So anyways, when I got home that night, I was still drinking on that water, and I turned on the night lamp, and it did like a reflection on the water bottle in the corner of my ceiling. And it totally looked like a demon perching down, or kind of like Spider-Man when he does like that upside down scene before the kiss type of thing. And I was just like, wow. What if there was like, a shadow demon or whatever just watching you sleep? And then like I went to sleep with that thought, and then the next day I was like, ooh, Isabel's born. That's Isabel, And then, yeah, so what if this demon isn't really all he seems to be? What if there's more to him, And then he meets the father.
Well, let's face it, demons can't help who they are. I mean, they were born that way. It's not their fault. They're just highly misunderstood.
Exactly. They're just, we don't know that they could be good. They just have to be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that does. I mean, I love demons in a story. In fact, Peter V. Brett's Demon Cycle is one of my favorite book series. So I mean, I'm totally into the whole demon aspect of that, and it was just a really interesting, good story overall. I thought, and it's just pretty enjoyable. So that's pretty awesome that you managed to get me interested in that. So, and of course, that led to me being interested to read more of your works, and that's where you sent me the Unconventional Family, or I guess Family Tree is what you're calling it, Family Tree book series. So yeah, I've read both of those so far. As I understand, you're working on the third one in that series, which I'm looking forward to seeing when that comes out. I'll definitely be wanting to read that one for sure. Yeah, and I guess that leads into like, where do you draw your inspiration from? Do you have any particular favorite authors that you draw inspiration from, that you enjoy reading, that you found has influenced your writing and your work?
I've been into like redemption stories like my entire life. Like redemption is a theme that's in all of my books. So Les Mis, Victor Hugo. If you like just the symbolism of what love can do to someone's life, you know, like redemption is just beautiful. Everybody is allowed to have redemption. You just have to like work for it and all that. So whenever there's a story that a character redeems themselves by like the grit and of their life, that's what draws me to it.
Oh, totally. Redemption is just redemption story arcs are pretty common within books and stories overall, and I think we could probably spend all day talking about examples of redemption arcs. But that's definitely, personally, I would say it's one of my favorite tropes, is that redemption arc where someone has fallen as far as they could possibly fall, but they overcome that and exceed and excel and go beyond what they ever imagined possible that they can do. So the redemption story arc is certainly something that I personally enjoy within books and writing and whatnot myself. So it sounds like that's where you draw a lot of your influence from, and you can definitely see that, especially in the writings that I've read of yours. The redemption arc is certainly there. And I have to admit, the Blind Sympathy is the one that stands out. I think it's probably because that's the one that surprised me the most with how much I'd like that. And definitely there is that redemption arc within there for sure. Absolutely.
And would you consider it like a big romance, or would you say that the romance is a small aspect of it that later plays a big part? Like,
yeah.
It's more about the
yeah, so with that, definitely, I think the whole romance aspect, it's absolutely, I think it was a pretty important part of that story as a whole, but it definitely didn't come across to me as what we would think of as a romance novel, but rather a story with a romance in it that was key to the plot, but not necessarily the focus of the story itself. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you're being haunted by a demon. That's a very scary idea. When we consider what we're thinking. Yeah, when we're considering what we think of as, demons. Demons are not friendly creatures in our imagination. They're definitely not things that we would imagine would be good for us to have, right? It's not something that. So having that redemption there with a demon, no less, is pretty cool. I mean, demons aren't supposed to be redeemable. That's why they're demons, right? So that was a lot of fun.
She's one of the ones that I really like the way she writes. And Blind Sympathy has been compared to Twilight a little bit sometimes in the reviews. And I guess I can see where that comes out, which is like that forbidden love that you're not really supposed to like. What? It's a demon trying to possess an innocent soul, and then he just falls for her? What?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I haven't read Twilight. I'll be honest, this is the first time I'm hearing that it's been compared to Twilight. But I hear all the time, don't read Twilight. I hear that all the time. But honestly, I couldn't say how it compares to Twilight, but I will say it's worth reading if it's something, if you like the whole romance aspect and you like demons, this Blind Sympathy is a great book to read. I think it's a good combination of both aspects as far as the story goes. And yeah, definitely, I think that would certainly be worth it. And then, of course, you've got your Unconventional Family and an Unbreakable Family, which I thought was kind of a cool storyline. It kind of got the whole, spy hitman type vibes there, and the whole family that comes together in those unique circumstances. Which, I will say that I haven't read just kind of a general fiction book like that before. Mostly what I read is science fiction and fantasy. But I kind of like that whole hitman spy vibe within there, which I thought was a lot of fun, and how that all came together. Like, when did you first get the idea for the Unconventional Family? Which, of course, is the book that we're doing the giveaway on. So again, tell us where you are, Canada or US, and we'll put your name in the draw there. And Andrew's Wizardly Reads, I already know you're in the US, so I'll put your name down.
So with An Unconventional Family, I had just finished watching The Professional. And if you've ever seen that movie, like, it's a hitman that kind of has to protect a teenage girl. He doesn't really have to, but he feels the need to, probably because he kills so much, for his job.
Right, yeah.
So I don't know. Something about that character just, that's when Marvin came in my head and was like, hey, I got a story for you. So then I started writing that. And what I like about this book is, and I never wrote like that before, where each chapter is the character, like the character's name will be on the chapter and that's whose point of view you'll be in. And it was actually really fun to do that, because when you write in first person, you can really get into like what they're feeling, and that, I think that's where my strength is in the feelings of the characters to make them more human, I guess.
Oh, 100%. I love switching between different viewpoints of characters. I find that just improves the story so much more versus sticking to a single character viewpoint on any book or story, because I find that when you're switching between different characters' viewpoint, you get to know that individual character so much better than just kind of being that outside observer to what they're reacting to. You get to understand them better, and I think that absolutely makes it a better story when doing that. So I like that you did that within the book, and I thought writing like that, I think, just improves the overall story, and I absolutely love when I see that. Not that one viewpoint is necessarily makes a bad story, but having multiple viewpoints with different characters, I think, just goes a long way to improve that story. And you tend to come to care about those characters a lot more when you're seeing those different viewpoints as well. So that's definitely a good thing. So I'm glad you put that in there. And, I'd love to ask, what's your creative? Sorry, go ahead.
Like, I think I just started doing it just to get to know the characters better. But then as I was rereading it, to like really start my first draft officially, then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do it this way. And it really helped me convey what they were feeling in their chapter, pretty much. Because when you are writing in third person, you kind of have to be like, well, this person sees what the character is doing on their face, that leads them to believe, oh, maybe they're not happy with my decision right now or whatever. But with writing it in first person, it's like, this is why I'm doing this. This is what I'm feeling. And oh my God, I have to do it this way because of this.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. So what's your creative process like when you're writing? Do you have like any specific method that you go about while you're writing? I know Sanderson put out a video a while back kind of going through what his daily life is like as a writer, when he's writing, when he's doing, when he's not writing, and how he balances on that. So how about for yourself? Like, do you have a process in place to help you with your writing, or anything specific that you like to do while you're writing to kind of get those creative juices flowing, so to speak?
Well, one of my quirks, and people think it's so weird, is that I write the end first.
Interesting. That, I admit that does seem kind of weird, but
then I know where it's going. I know where it's gonna end up, and it just, I don't know. It really helped me. But I have a disabled veteran as a husband, so we go to the hospital a lot. So I always have my laptop because if you don't have something to do, you're just in your mind at all times. So I do use writing as a little bit of an escape from what I'm, like if I'm at the hospital or whatever. And then when we get home, if I'm still on a roll and I'm like, ooh, it's getting good, I need to like finish a few chapters, then I go upstairs to my office, and the magic happens there too. But it just has to be really quiet. Like if it's if people are trying to talk to me, or if the dogs are trying to be like, yay, that's my toy, no, I want it, then I'm like, I can't write, y'all, what are we doing?
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not a writer, I'm a reader, but I'm happy to read what writers write. So I got to have it quiet while I'm reading too. And this is why I listen to Audible while the kids are up, because I can put my earbuds in and it just kind of makes it easier. But I've got to have it quiet while I'm reading too, so without distraction. So while I'm not a writer, I totally get that. I need it quiet without distraction aspect of it for sure. Because yeah, it's just so much easier that way. Which is why I'm kind of looking forward to the kids going to school. Lots of time during the day.
You can read so many books, review so many books when they're in school.
Well, we'll see what happens. That'll be an interesting adventure for sure. Looking forward to that. Yeah. So you'd mentioned earlier that you don't see yourself as a romance author. Is there a particular genre that you see yourself specifically writing in primarily, or are you hoping to explore all kinds of genres? Science fiction, fantasy, fiction, historic fiction, or do you kind of have one genre that you find that you like to write in specifically?
What I think is funny about putting yourself in a box is that you don't belong in there, like you gotta be free, you gotta like explore your options, you gotta see what comes, because my stories come to me from the characters. I don't know where they're gonna, like, it could be a space cowboy one day and I'm gonna have to write it, So no,
Space cowboy, I like that.
I knew you would, but I really think that because a lot of people that talk about what they're writing, or they try to give advice to new authors, they tell you to pick a genre and just get good at that genre. And I found that I just can't seem to do that, because here I got a hitman, here I got a puppy that also has a story, so I have to tell it, and it's told in the puppy's perspective, and then I have the demon. So I just have to go with where the stories take me. And as we were talking earlier, I'm even dabbing my feet into some fantasy now with Greek gods and in modern times and everything. So I just go with
totally pumped. I'm totally looking forward to that. 100%. That'll be fun. So what, I guess, tell me a little bit about your experience self-publishing, because definitely, when you self-publish, to me at least, it seems a lot harder to really get the marketing out behind there versus having like a big publisher like Tor, right, or Orbit Books. So tell me about your experience with self-publishing, from when you first decided you wanted to write these stories to trying to, I guess, pitch your book and find a publisher and an editor. What was that journey like? What kind of hurdles did you find that you had trying to get your book published? And you can tell me a little bit about that journey. I'd love to hear about it.
So when I finished An Unconventional Family, the cover actually looked like this. And in that first edition, you definitely learn things. Like you have to write a query letter to try to find an agent. You have to find an editor, maybe, if the agent isn't, biting at your idea. And then if you want to try to find a publisher and just skip the editor and the agent, go ahead and try, but you got to be exactly what they're looking for, or your voice has to sound a certain way for whatever is trending or whatever. So there is the other option of self-publishing. And for me, because I love my stories and I love my characters so much that they had to have a life. They had to be read by other people. And thankfully, Amazon, Kindle, they make it really easy for indie authors to be able to achieve that goal. Now, the marketing aspect, that's a whole different ball game that I'm still trying to master, because you can get the reviews by just, well, excuse my French, pouring your book out, pouring yourself out, and being like, please read this, tell me what you think,
Well,
But then when
you never know, you might surprise someone.
Yeah, and get them to like a romance aspect of a story.
Exactly.
So you just have to be really like, oh, you're going to tell me I can't have this? Well, I'm defiant and I'm going to prove to you that there is a market for this, And when I entered the contest and I won, that made me think, okay, so let's do this even more. So I'm still looking for agents. I'm still looking, but you can get really far being tenacious by yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's been authors that have seen a lot of success with that. I think Evan Winter is an example of that. He got picked up by Orbit Books after he went the self-publishing route first. So sometimes, for at least some authors, that's like a really good place to start, is in the self-publishing and kind of get noticed that way. But I can imagine that could be quite difficult, which, especially in the demographics that we see within writers, especially in North America, because generally speaking, I mean, you look at my shelf, I admit most of them are white cisgendered men who are writers of the books on my shelf. But I love when I could get a hold of an author who doesn't fit that demographic, because I firmly believe that there is so much writing talent across all demographics. But so much of the market in North America, at least, is dominated by people such as Brandon Sanderson, and they're great authors. They absolutely are. But I feel like we need more diversity in the writing community. So given that, like, did you find that there were any challenges not being in that predominantly white cisgender demographic, male demographic, where we see these best-selling authors? Like, were there any challenges you experienced in trying to get your book noticed, I guess? Do you feel that that might have been a hindrance? Because I think we need more diversity for sure.
Well, they do have places that they're looking for African American authors for LQ, like all the letters, those kind of authors they're looking for. So they are looking for diversity, but you have to be that type of bigger majority, I guess you could say, because, for example, I'm Brazilian and I don't really have any Brazilian characters in my book either. So that's also something that you can market. Like, if you are an African American and you are writing an African American character, there's definitely like more doors that are going to open there, too, because we're trying to be more sensitive about those types of issues, for sure. But for me, like, writing as a woman and whatever, they do want to try to put me in the romance box for sure. They're like, oh, you're a woman and you write, oh, there's like a little bit of a romance in there. That's a romance author, okay, And if that's the case, I really don't think that I fit there. My stories have like a bigger, I don't know, like, it's not centered around the romance. There's so many different things that are happening, and then the romance, gets in there.
Yeah,
the way it
absolutely.
is.
Yeah, the Unconventional Family or Family Tree series, I could say for sure that is definitely not a romance novel. I could say that unequivocally without doubt. That's not romance. There is a relationship there, absolutely, but that is not a romance story. And so the idea of you being classified as a romance author, just based, I mean, I've got 3 of your books. 2 of them are from the Family Tree, which is not romance. So 2/3 of the books I've read by you are definitely not romance. So the idea of you being classified as a romance author, like when I was kind of just Googling some stuff there, it was kind of like, what? Really? She's romance? Are you sure? It just didn't seem to fit. I mean, I could kind of get where they might consider Blind Sympathy a paranormal romance. And that's in fact how you described it to me. So I could kind of see that, but definitely not with the other books of yours that I've read. So I really hope that with the other books that you're working on, the other ones you're coming out, you can, get them to get people to recognize that you're not just romance. And I think it's great that you're trying out other genres of books as well, and not just sticking to one type of book. I think that's important for growth as an author. I mean, some authors will eventually settle on a specific type of book, but definitely you could write in multiple different genres. I think that's awesome, and there are many authors that do that. And I guess is that ultimately your goal and objective? You want to write in as many different genres as you can, or you just kind of go with whatever story pops in your head and figure out the genre as you go?
Yeah, because for me is I hear the characters in my head, which sounds like, kind of crazy, schizophrenic, but it's not. It's just
Not
the
at all.
characters. So the, the reason why I never know what it's gonna be is because I don't know who's gonna come. I don't know who's gonna, be next. I have no idea.
Well, I have no idea either, but I'm certainly looking forward to finding out. And yeah, and definitely it will be fun. I'm looking forward to this fantasy series that you mentioned that you're writing. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to read once it comes out, and definitely I will be checking into buying that. And of course, I'll update the description later with links to where to buy the Blind Sympathy and Family Tree books. So put the Amazon links of where to buy that there. Uh, that'll be so much fun to see that come out for you. Who are your favorite authors? So, like, do you have any particular favorite authors yourself that you enjoy?
I do like Stephanie Myers a lot. She does write amazing things. I know you're probably not into that genre and whatnot.
Not typically, no.
Then I like I like Nora Roberts too. She's also a romance author, but I like her earlier stuff, and then the stuff that she does as JD Robb, which she wanted to get into mystery, and she couldn't get into mystery because she was a woman. So she submitted some of her mystery books as a man's name. And then she got it. And then the publisher was even like, you know what? Let's keep it at that, because people are not ready for a lady in this genre yet, So it's kind of cool to think about.
See, and that to me is just really unfortunate that that could even be considered a factor at all in whether a book gets published under one name or another. And that to me is just sad. Like, there's so many good writers that don't fit that demographic. Margaret Atwood's a great example of that. She, with The Handmaid's Tale, definitely I would describe that as a dystopian theocratic society setting. And let's face it, like a lot of dystopian novels are actually seem to be written by women, but a lot of them are more of young adult focus, whereas The Handmaid's Tale definitely is not. I know Margaret Atwood has the Mad Adams series. You got R.F. Kuang with I think it's called the Burning series, which is a Chinese Eastern inspired fantasy. So definitely I think that there's a lot of room for the all kinds of ethnic backgrounds to bring it in and write some really good stories. I know Evan Winter's another one. He's an African-inspired fantasy, African-born Canadian author who I believe I was reading an article on him. He said, I wrote this book because my son didn't have any fantasy to read that had people that look like us. And I wanted him to read about our culture in these books, because it just isn't there. So much of it is the Middle Eastern stuff. So really, I love having books that come from that different perspective. So that's why I'm glad that you sent me yours, because I probably never would have known that you even had books or that you were you if you hadn't done that. And that's often the case with a lot of, yeah, I mean, let's face it, that's the case with a lot of self-published authors. And not just talking about, your typical demographics, but self-published authors in general. Like I don't know that these people are there writing books until they contact me a lot of the times, because it's just not what you see when you go to the bookstore. Typically,
especially for indie authors, like they're just trying to make it. They're just trying to probably be tenacious like me, see Google who's reviewing books, who can help me out, like then they contact you and they contact a million other people, and not everybody says yes. So we appreciate you for giving us the shot and, reading our stuff, saying your true opinions about it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to help you as growth as an author as well, and get to know your audience better, get to know what's working and what's not. And also just want to quickly put in as a reminder to those watching right now, if you weren't with us at the beginning, put your name and whether you're in Canada or US in the chat for your chance to win a book. We'll be doing a draw at the end of the stream. So if you want a chance to win a book today, let us know if you're in Canada or the US, if you're watching now, and we'll put your name in for the draw. So with that, like, I guess maybe tell people how you, as an author who's self-published, how do you value the feedback you get from booktubers and book reviewers and that kind of thing? Because I know you've reached out to me, and I'm probably not the only one you've reached out to get some feedback. How does our feedback help you as an author? And why should we as booktubers take that opportunity when presented to us? Because I know some don't accept it at all, and that's not a bad thing. That's totally cool. I don't want to say you're bad if you don't, but how does that help you as an author when getting that kind of feedback and from people such as myself?
Well, we as authors are very fragile beings, like if you think about how much time it takes to write a book, it's almost the same as like having your children, like, oh, they graduated, let's see what they're gonna do in the world. And that's me passing my child to you and going like, how's he doing? Is he doing all right? Is is he polite? Or like and then you telling me your true feedback and how you felt with the story, that's when it's like, oh wow, I did okay, or if I didn't, then I would be like, oh, I wonder why they didn't like it as much as I did. But then you also have to have that balance of like, everybody's different and not everybody's gonna like your stuff either, so you have to be like, well, they're allowed to have their opinion, they're allowed. But how it helps us is it either builds up our confidence, or it gives us time to go back to the drawing board and be like, well, I mean, he said a few things that I could probably tweak here and there, or if I'm too proud, then I won't, and I'll just be mad. And it's good to grow, people. Let's grow.
Oh, 100%. I can say that when I have books sent to me for a review, I always try, even if it's not the kind of book that I typically enjoy, I try not to let that influence my overall review of the work itself. Because last thing I want to do is to give a bad review of a book simply because it's a genre I don't like or I'm not interested in. I think that would be an absolute disservice to an author personally, because when we're looking at doing a review, I feel like what we need to look at is like, well, how is the writing? How is the character development? If I'm not really into historical fiction, I don't want to be that guy that gives it a 1-star review because I don't like historical fiction. If you were to take that same story and put it in a sci-fi or fantasy setting, how would I feel about it? Was it good? Was it not good? And I try to separate whether I like the genre or not from the actual review. And I think that that's important, and important for authors such as yourself as well, because when you're looking at that feedback, you want to get honest feedback on how well you told the story, not whether someone likes the genre or not. And I think that's really important. And I guess, what do you think of that idea? Is that would you say that that's something you agree with?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because you're not going to please everybody at all times, and that's a given. But if you get a good review and then somebody else sees that review and that's kind of like what they were looking for, you're helping us because you put your opinion out there, and then somebody else might feel the same way you do, or whatever. Or if somebody says this book is so bad, you should read it. I mean, I might go ahead and try to read and see how bad it is. So it just depends on what type of person you are there too.
Totally. I could tell you, I almost never DNF a book. It's so rare that if I don't finish a book, even a bad book, I will power through just because I get a bit OCD if I don't finish it. It drives me up the wall. But I will say, if your writing doesn't hook me in, if your writing doesn't cause, if I don't like your writing, I'm probably not going to read the second or third book in a series if it's a series. I can say that I'm enjoying your writing enough that I'll definitely be continuing on with the Family Tree series when the next one comes out, because definitely, I thought it was a decent book and a good book. I think you probably saw my video review of that. You could look somewhere on my fiction playlist. I think it's there. Definitely, I don't think I've come across a book I'd describe as absolutely perfect in every way. But overall, I still thought it was a good, interesting story, and I'm glad you wrote it. And I'm sure you're glad as well. So one of your books received the honorable mention at these book awards in California, I think it was. I hadn't heard of this organization. Yeah, I hadn't actually heard of this before. Tell me about that. Like, what is this organization and what do they do? Tell me how that was for you getting that.
Is they like to find books that will translate into other media. So could it translate to a TV show? Could it translate to a movie? Could it be an audio book? Like they're actually getting more marketable now too. So when you win the contest, you get your name and your story sent out to, like, let's say Netflix people, producers, that will want to convert it into a screenplay. Hopefully, if that ever happened, I would be involved in that process to stay really close to my child, But
100%.
The second book, An Unbreakable Family, that won the sequel category. So it wasn't just an honorable mention. It was like a win, yay! So
That's awesome.
I really hope something will come out of that, because that's my dream for sure. I want to see these people on the screen. Let's do it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if they turn it into a show, you tell them they have to film it here in Vancouver, Victoria, because it's like Hollywood North, and they got to cast me in the lead, okay?
You're going to be Marvin?
Sure, why not? I mean, I know Marvin's not bald, but I could wear a wig.
It would have to be very beautiful hair. I want to see that.
I would totally do that. I could totally play Marvin. Absolutely, hands down. So, as long as you put that as the requirements, I'm totally on board with that. You wouldn't even have to pay me. You just have to cover my expenses. I don't need anything beyond that.
I am excited for the third book. That one's going to be called The Unstoppable Family.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, awesome. Well, it's kind of fitting the theme, unconventional, unbreakable, and they're definitely unconventional. I'll tell you that much. If you haven't read it, read it. Yeah, because they're definitely unconventional. That's for sure. And I'll definitely buy that once it comes out. Looking forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun. And you mentioned, of course, you're working on that fantasy series, which is really awesome. Oh, Epic Tales has joined us. Awesome. He's in Vancouver, so we'll put his name in the draw.
All
All right,
right.
we're going to put your name in the draw there, Epic, for a free book. Thanks for joining us. Let me just go ahead and add his name here.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody that's coming out to join us today. Thank you so much. Like, without readers and, subscribers, what are we doing here?
Well, yeah, exactly. Epic's. Oh, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to Epic Tales channel, you got to do that. His channel is just epic. It's it's awesome. Just search Epic Tales. And also, of course, follow Roberta on all of her social media. I've got all that linked in the description below as well, so you could check her out there. And she will respond to you. She's really good at that. She's good at engaging with her audience, I've found. So definitely join her on Instagram. She's on Facebook as well. I've linked her website below. Check out all of her work. So what other idea? I'm really curious. What other story ideas that we haven't already covered do you have brewing in your head? You got any really awesome stuff you're thinking about, or beyond what we've discussed?
There is one that I'm actually writing with my brother, and it's a story about an Alzheimer's patient who was a Broadway star, and whenever he has his episode, he just reverts back to the characters that he used to play on stage. So it's kind of cool so far.
Honestly, just on the surface, that description sounds hilarious, and I could really see it being an epic comedy.
Oh no,
I don't
it's
know
more like there's comedy aspects in it. Yes, but it's also like heartfelt and kind of grueling. We'll see,
Yeah, that's Broadway. I'm all down for it. I love Broadway. Wish it wasn't so expensive to go see those shows, but love it. That'll be interesting for sure. The very concept just sounds really, really cool. You said you're writing that with your brother. That's really awesome as well. Having a co-author there, it'd be interesting to kind of see how your two writing styles can work and weave together with that. Has your brother actually written any books himself, or is this kind of the first attempt?
He's a Broadway guy, so he was in the tour of the musical Cat around the country.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That's how he met his wife, actually. And then he was also in Les Mis, and I got to go backstage. It was so much fun. So he has the back door of all the shows and stuff that he can incorporate into the book. And he is also so good at description and scenery and even the background of a story as well. He's good. It's gonna be a lot of fun whenever we finish that.
That's awesome. When I was growing up, I dreamed of being an actor on stage. But Broadway, Hollywood, I didn't care. I just wanted to be an actor. Probably like a lot of kids, a lot of people I expect, grow up with dreams of being a Hollywood star or actor. Now I'd rather just be rich. I don't want to deal with the fame. But I mean that's really cool. So that sounds fascinating. Definitely keep us up to date on that for sure, because that would be interesting. I mean, I almost think almost all plot lines are interesting if done well, and that's so important with writing it. You gotta make sure that it's done well. And I know it takes a lot of work. Like writing a book is really an art form. Like it is art, and there's art that's done well, and there's art that isn't done well, and it's a well done piece of art, regardless of this type of story it is, can be a really, really good read. And I think you've proved that to me with some of your books that I really wasn't expecting to really like. And I think that that's awesome. You showed me that science fiction and fantasy is awesome, but there's still good writing in other genres. Not that I didn't think there wasn't, but it's just nothing I really considered. And so I'm really glad you reached out to me to send you those books, because I'm seeing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's
seeing
great.
I'm looking forward to, you're not the first one to send me a book. You probably won't be the last one. And, I always welcome self-published authors sending me their books to read. So thank you for showing me that paranormal romance and general fiction can still be an enjoyable read. That's really awesome, and I'm glad that you did that. So
thank you for telling me your true opinions of all of them, and for giving me a shot, having me over here in your channel. It's been really fun so far.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And, I'm glad that you're able to make it on for this live stream. And, I think at this point, we could probably move on to doing the draw here. I know we got Epic and Andrew's Wizardly Reads in the chat. I know both of them are in Canada and the US. And I know a friend of mine, Leanne, said she'd be tuning in. I don't know if she has and just hasn't commented, but I'm going to put her name in the draw anyway. So we got at least 3 names. So let's see who's going to be the winner of your free book here. So we're going to add the 3 names to the screen here. All right, so we're going to spin this wheel now, and we're going to see who wins. Now, just before I do that, if anyone wants to put their name in the chat now, let us know where you are. This is your last chance to win. We've got 3 names in the draw. So we're going to have Leanne, Epic Tales, and Andrew's Wizardly Reads. Let's see who wins. And spin. All right, Epic Tales, you just won a free book. Congratulations.
Right. This will be coming to you. So just email me, please, your address, and I will be sending that out.
Yeah, so all the contact information, websites, Instagram, Facebook, email, I've put that into the description. Epic, definitely congratulations, man. I enjoyed the book, and reach out to Roberta here, and she will send you a copy of her book. So enjoy. All right. Well, thank you everybody who has watched live. Thank you to those who are watching on the replay. And thank you, Roberta, for joining me today on this conversation with you about your books, your writing, your experience as an author. Glad you could join me today. And thank you so much. So to everyone else, follow Roberta, check her out. You bet. And until next time, everyone, keep on reading. Bye.